Welcome to the Cyclical Doula podcast. I'm Emma, a certified Sympto-Pro instructor, a fertility awareness educator, and your guide to fertility coaching and reproductive health education from menarche to menopause and all the different types of motherhood in between. If you're seeking a natural, science-backed approach to managing your fertility, understanding your cycle, or simply connecting with your body in a new way, you're in the right place. Each episode is designed to empower you with the tools, knowledge, and confidence you need to thrive in your unique journey. Quick disclaimer, this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not medical advice or individualized charting support. For specific guidance, please consult with your healthcare provider or fertility awareness instructor. Now, let's dive into today's topic.
Welcome to the space where cycles breathe, where the real raw life of a mama leads. From motherhood's highs to charting the low, your body's story is the star of the show. Matriarch heart.
Welcome back to the Cyclical Doula podcast. Today I'm here with Sarah Laverty, and she is an embodiment coach who specializes in helping women build unshakable self-trust by getting out of their heads and back into their bodies. She teaches a radically compassionate approach to procrastination, not as a flaw or a failure to overcome, but as a messenger from the body asking for attention, support, or a different pace. Sarah's background is rich and layered. She's trained as a feminine embodiment coach and has spent years involved in political and feminist advocacy and brings a tender, grounded understanding of what it's like to live in cycles of anxiety, overwhelm, and shutdown. Her work helps women shift into a more intuitive, cyclical way of living where the body leads, self-trust grows, and procrastination becomes a doorway instead of a dead end. I'm so thrilled to have her here today, and I think this conversation is going to be deeply validating for anyone who ever felt stuck, disconnected, or held back from their own inner powers. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here. Let's hear a little bit more about you and like who you are outside of your work, maybe a little bit more about who you are in your work too.
Yeah, no worries. So I'm Sarah. I am a 34-year-old woman. I live just outside of Belfast in Northern Ireland. And as you mentioned in the intro, a lot of the time that I spent before I got into embodiment work has been around political campaigning, both in my work, but also as a volunteer. So for about the last 10 years, I've been involved with a wide range of movements, from feminist movements to environmental, education, and currently I work as a campaigner for a healthcare trade union while I also run my business. So I've always been really, really fascinated in change and how change happens. And for anyone who knows the history, Northern Ireland is a very political place. I grew up in the middle of a conflict. And so I suppose I've always been pretty fascinated by how cycles live out in society and in ourselves, even before I would have had that language to describe it like that.
Mm-hmm.
Some other things to know about me is that I am a serial hobbyist. I love a hobby. I pick up random things and do them for a while. And I have done improv comedy. I've been a radio presenter. I've done pole dancing. I love a bit of Zumba. Ran a half marathon last year. And I love cross stitching. That's something I've been doing coming up to Christmas for people. So I just love to do lots of really random things, which means that occasionally I have so many metaphors I bring into my work just from random experiences that I've had here and there that I seem to collect. Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
That's a bit about me.
I love that. That's so cool. So you talked a lot about habits. Is there one like rhythm or ritual that you like always go back to or that's like feeding you right now?
There's one that I've developed in about the last year and a half since as part of like setting up my business, which is probably a little bit, I didn't know it would be so helpful until I started doing it, but I have it's usually either weekly or every 2 weeks, a 1 hour money date. So I have a 1 hour period of time that I sit down and I work on my money. And when I started my business, I realized that my relationship with money, which I thought was pretty good up to that point, was actually like not good at all. I had so much contraction and discomfort around money. And I had thought very naively going into business. Like, I don't need to worry. Like, I'll just hire an accountant and they'll figure out that side of things and I can just
Yep.
like push that to the side. And discovered, no, not at all, that I really need to be on top of my money. And through some coaching that I've received myself around money and wealth and how that can show up in the body, one of the practices I brought in was just having a weekly or fortnightly period of time where I sit down and I look at my budget and I collect my receipts and I do all of those things. And that
Yeah.
has been so helpful at changing my relationship with money and making it a much calmer and more stable thing in my life.
That's amazing. Yeah, I feel like that's not talked about enough of like how to do that well, or just like how to sit in that at all.
Yeah.
That's great. What else is filling your cup this season?
Another thing that's been filling my cup is, again, another thing that I didn't think that I would ever be drawn to, but I have been doing some kind of like low level like strength training like twice a week.
Yeah.
Ironically,
Nice.
I skipped it this week. I was very busy, but generally,
Yep.
I have been pretty good at sticking to it like twice a week for quite a few months now. When I ran
Nice.
I ran a half marathon last year and I hurt my hip, so I had to get physio for it, and I've eventually got to the stage now where my physio just created like a twice a week program for me to start like strengthening that. So I've added to it some, other exercises for the rest of my body. I am not going hard, like I am not lifting heavy weights, but having something that's kind of like fairly easy but still pushes me a little bit, and doing that twice a week has been really, really good. And it's actually like, I think that I would have been someone who probably went to more, we can probably use this as a good example when we start talking about procrastination, but I would have probably seen going to the gym as the time to like really push myself, which meant I would stick with it for a few weeks and then I would give up.
Right.
Whereas now I have an exercise that, okay, well, I might push myself sometimes, but I'm going to do these 2 exercises in the week. It'll stretch me a little bit, but not like a huge amount. And yeah, I've felt the very slow, gradual like change in my body. So that's been really nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've been trying to do some strength training myself too. And I feel like it's like one of those things where if you get in a rhythm of it, it feels so much better. And you don't, like you said, you don't have to push yourself too hard. And it can be that's awesome.
And I think I used to overcomplicate it as well by like trying to give myself like new exercises like every like couple of weeks. I was changing it up. Whereas now I've had one routine that I've basically just changed the weight levels of like very, very slowly. And so it's great. I don't have to like think about it. I just go in and like go through the routine that I already know is there until I get a little bit bored of it. And then I like change one thing. And
that's
it's
awesome.
really nice. Yeah.
That's so good. Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit more about what got you into this work, into like how you got to this point to start doing this work. Hey friend, quick pause before we keep going with today's episode. If you've been curious about learning to chart your cycle, but the whole thing feels just a little overwhelming, I made something just for you. It's my 14-day charting challenge. It's a completely free experience inside my private community. For 2 weeks, you'll have the opportunity to go through simple daily practices that will help you tune into your body's natural rhythms without pressure, without perfection, and without needing to know anything ahead of time. You'll get a chart to use, 3 short, confident building lessons, and a supportive space where you can actually start to understand what your body is showing you. It's all bite-sized and totally doable, even if life feels super full. So if you've been wanting to learn a fertility awareness-based method or just feel more connected to your cycle, come join us. You can sign up at the link in the show notes or going to my website, emma.com, and clicking on the free charting challenge. All right, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of people who are doing this work feel like they were pulled towards it as opposed to setting out for it. And I can definitely look at my history and say that. So I'm someone who I would say I spent a lot of my early life like living in my mind. I was very, very academic, very like straight A student and big like thinker. And
Yeah.
I, you know, like my mind was a safe place to be. I was a very shy and sensitive child, and my school was quite big, which I can look back and go, oh, I went to a really big school for like a shy, sensitive 5-year-old, and it was just overwhelming for me. So I suppose that my
Yeah.
mind was like, and my schoolwork was the safe place. And for a lot of my life, like that was initially like helpful, but I can see that over time, like my worrying tendencies started to grow and
Mm.
grow and grow. And in my early 20s, I developed really bad like relationship anxiety and OCD. So my
Mm.
relationship and OCD compulsions centering around relationships. And that was the first thing that really like floored me and was like, oh, I just don't, somehow now thinking is not helping, but I don't really know what else to
Mm.
do. So that was
Yeah.
the first thing. I got CBT at that time, and it did help to pull back the first layers, but it didn't really go to the deeper layer. And I would say that the deeper level layer came in my mid 20s. So when I was 26, I found out that I have a rare heart condition and I needed to be fitted with a pacemaker. And my dad had died from heart disease from
Oh.
whenever I was 14. And so this was such a traumatic experience. You know, I was in
Yeah.
the same hospital wards that I used to visit him on, and I just fell apart. And I sometimes describe this time as like life just gave me a challenge that I couldn't think my way out of. So I had
Mm.
no other option but to start looking for other things. I had my first panic attack about 2 days after I came out of hospital with my diagnosis. And I had a panic attack pretty much every day, at least one, for the next 9 months. So I was
Wow.
it was just my whole life became like contracted. I was
Mm-hmm.
really struggling to function. Well, and in order to be able to function, I started learning about the body and the nervous system. You know, I
Yeah.
started like reaching for support wherever I could get it. And that was the first experience where I got sent to these free classes run by our health service about stress in the body, which I initially was a bit skeptical going to. I thought, oh, they're going to tell me to drink water.
Yeah.
Lovely. But it was
Yeah.
it was actually really detailed education about the nervous system and about fight or
That's
flight
amazing.
and about how this shows up physiologically. And it was so interesting. And I had so many experiences that year of, oh, when I put my body first, that actually really helps my mind. Now,
Yeah.
I'll not go into all what happened after that, but that wasn't exactly when I discovered embodiment. That was again a couple of years later when my anxiety and OCD flared up again, and I was like, no, this time I know that there's a body component to this. So I went searching for
Mm.
body-based support. I discovered embodiment work, and from day one, I was like, oh my god, this is what I've been missing, because
Yeah.
from the very first day that I was taken through an embodied meditation, I realized that I was completely cut off from my body. Even though I'd done
Mm-hmm.
years of meditation and yoga, I actually had no idea what was going on in my body at any given moment or
Yeah.
how to work with it. And I just became obsessed. It was like I had struck gold and I could not get enough of it. And so I poured myself into everything that I could find. It also was really influencing how I was viewing societal change as well, because
Mm.
I was working full time as a campaigner at that point, and I was suddenly looking at everything that we were doing through a lens of the nervous system and how it was affecting that.
Yeah.
So I basically just became obsessed with it. I started doing then my feminine embodiment coaching training, not even to become a coach, just to pour
Yeah.
myself more deeply into it, because there was a huge personal mastery component of the course. So I did it for that. And then when I finished the course, I was like, well, I'm obsessed with this and I love the coaching element. So
Yeah.
guess I'm gonna become a coach now and put this out in the world. And that's the journey that I took to it. I really, really think that embodiment did change my life. Even though the
Yeah.
physical components of my life maybe don't look an awful lot different, the way I relate to life and the way I relate to myself completely changed. And it basically was a massive journey of discovery that all the times I thought my body was working against me, it was actually
Hmm.
working for me. And I'm so
Yeah.
grateful for all of the ways that, anxiety, panic, a heart condition, none of those are pleasant things, but I can also
Right.
see that they all acted to guide me back to myself.
Mm, that's amazing. Thanks so much for sharing all of that. I like what an transformative experience it sounds like, and one that really switched from using your mind as a primary to your body as seeing it as a resource, and that's such a powerful thing. So some people might not know what embodiment work
Mm.
is. Can you kind of describe what it is? And I'm sure there's a lot of things that you can go in detail
Mm.
about, but if people are listening to this and saying, I have no idea what Sarah's talking about, could you kind of help people understand what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is, do you know what? It is a difficult thing to talk about because it's so
Yeah.
experiential. But
Mm,
basically, embodiment work is the experience of connecting to your inner felt senses. So the physical sensations in your
yeah.
body, the emotional sensations in your body, the energetic feeling in your body. And these we often think that we know what's going on in our body, but we don't spend an awful lot of time with
Right.
it. So it's about learning how to really connect to and be with and understand those feelings. And the feminine embodiment modality that I'm trained in is really about
Yeah.
cultivating the ability to allow these sensations, these inner experiences to guide us, to move through us, to
Mm,
transform us, and to educate us. To give you an example, I came to embodiment for the specifically about the relationship anxiety that I was experiencing.
right.
And that first meditation that I was taken through was by the coach, sort of going like, let's just see where you're at right now. So they took me through a practice of just connecting to the anxiety, just sort of allowing it to come into my awareness and just feel, what does it actually feel like in my body? And I realized in
Hmm.
that moment that this anxiety that I'd been so afraid of my whole life, I could not tell you what it actually felt like. I knew that there was a
Oh,
vague
wow. Yeah.
discomfort. I knew that there was like a vague discomfort around it. But my experience up to that point had been that every time that I noticed just like a little flavor of that feeling, I would just run straight up into my mind to try and figure out how to get rid of it. I had
Mm,
absolutely no idea what it actually felt like, how I was actually experiencing it. And I suppose
wow.
what embodiment was really was it was like lowering the defenses to those sensations and going, instead of
Mm,
just running in the other direction, I'm going to sit with you and understand you a little bit more. And then the discovery, of course, that happens through embodiment is when you sit with those sensations, you actually be with them, you cultivate the ability to feel them and to let them move through you. You kind of gain mastery over yourself, but you also realize that a lot of the things that you thought were so terrifying are really not terrifying. And they're usually
yeah.
there to help you and support you. And so it's like going into the bedroom of a child that thinks that there is a monster in the closet and just taking them
Yeah.
over to the closet and going, let's go and see what's actually in the closet. Embodiment
Hmm.
is taking you into the closet of your inner world and saying, let's actually go and see what's there.
Let's take a quick moment for a little brain break and talk about something different. Have you ever wished someone could just sit down with you and magically tell you when you were going to get your period next? Or maybe tell you exactly which days you can and can't get pregnant? That's the beauty of charting. Once you understand your cycle, it stops feeling like this random guessing game and starts feeling like a pattern you can actually trust. I promise it's not as complicated as it might seem. Your body is already giving you all the clues. You just need someone to show you how to read them. That's exactly what I'm doing right now while finishing my Fertility Knowledge Collective certification. I'm still looking for a few clients to work with me for 3 months of online cycle coaching and charting support. We'll meet virtually, review your real life signs like cervical mucus and temperature, and help you build skills you can use for the rest of your life. And as part of my certification process, this round is pay what you can. So if you've ever thought, I just wish someone would guide me, this is your chance. To get in touch with me, either message me on Instagram at cyclical doula or text FKC, just so I know that what we're talking about, to 854-220-0218. I'll send you the details and we can figure out if this is a good fit for you. Okay, let's get back into the episode. That's great. That's such a good description. Thank you. All right. Tell us a little bit. So your work has a lot to do with procrastination. So tell me more about like what that feels to you and how you've kind of focused on that part.
Yeah. So I'll tell you how I ended up focusing on procrastination, first of all. I knew that going into starting to offer my own embodiment coaching, that I really wanted to focus on self-trust and confidence. Those were the main things that had come through for me. That had been the biggest transformation for me, was going from being someone who I didn't trust anything about myself. You know, all of my anxiety and panic had just created this experience where I was like, I don't know what's about to happen next. I didn't have any kind of safe landing place. And I feel like embodiment helped to create that safe landing place within myself. And it helped me to trust myself more by helping me to get to know myself more. So self-trust and confidence was what I went out there with. The thing is, self-trust and confidence is a big broad spectrum of things. And also embodiment's a kind of difficult thing for people to fully understand. So I was continually sort of listening, going, okay, like what's the common themes that are coming up? Like, how are people understanding this? And I'm part of a small business network in Northern Ireland that I really value. And so I go there and, you know, I listen to women who are in the process of setting up or running their own businesses. And the thing that I kept hearing coming up over and over again was procrastination and confidence. And those two things really link together. So people saying, oh, like, I wish I had more confidence, but I just keep procrastinating. And I started to realize that procrastination is one of the best ways that people can understand this experience of feeling like your mind and your body are at odds. Like your mind wants you to go and do something, but your body just will not allow you to do it. You know, when you cannot physically drag yourself out of the house to get to the gym. That feeling of like the disconnect happening there. But the thing that I was sort of sitting with was that through my embodiment training, my practice, procrastination was actually always celebrated a little bit. So procrastination was always, when someone would come into the space and go, do you know, like, I've got to this part of the course, but I just noticed I'm procrastinating around it, everyone would be like, oh, yay. Because when you've hit on where you're procrastinating, it's like you've hit on gold. It's like, okay, here's the place where there's resistance. Here's the place where there's something to work with. There's something juicy here. It wasn't seen as a problem. It was seen as, okay, this is where you're moving through, and working with that is part of the process. That's part of the experience and the growth. So I'd spent a few years deep in these worlds, and now I was back in, the real world, inverted commas. I was talking to people who weren't talking about embodiment all the time, and they were so full of self-criticism, so full of just really, really disliking themselves for procrastinating, constantly seeing it as a problem that had to be fixed, and really seeing whenever procrastination would come up, it was like, oh, well, I'm not good enough. If I was better, then this wouldn't be happening. If I was cut out for this, then this wouldn't be happening. And I think what I realized in that moment was, I have something to offer here. I have something that I can really provide, of helping people to understand what procrastination actually is, how you can work with it, and the fact that it doesn't have to be a sign that something's going wrong or that something's wrong with you. It's actually a really natural part of the process of growth, and a natural part of the process of going after something that you want. And when you learn how to work with it, especially through the body, it can really transform what you believe you yourself are capable of. So that's kind of what led me to deciding to focus on this area. And it's such a rich area. I thought I would get bored just focusing on one thing, but really I can talk about everything through there, because procrastination is linked to so many things. The fact that, you know, we live in a capitalist society that's so focused on production, it's very linked to cyclical living, particularly for women. And so I have not run out of things to talk about. I have just found a dozen more things to talk about.
I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I suppose that's so the first part of like how I ended up in it. So do you want me to talk about a little bit more of like what is it and why does it happen?
Yeah, sure. Do it.
Okay, so procrastination has been taught to us that it is a moral feeling. Most of us have grown up in a culture that has taught us that your procrastination is something that is a sign of your poor character, and it's something worthy of punishment. So in school, we learned that if we were daydreaming, we weren't getting to our work as soon as the teacher told us to, that meant we were bad and we deserved to be punished. And very often in our homes as well, if we didn't clean our rooms when we were told to, or we didn't, you know, keep up with our responsibilities, a lot of us were responded to that was a sign that we were irresponsible in some way. So it's really important to lay out this to begin with, because this sense, this overall like cloud of shame and guilt that we have around procrastination is a culturally created thing. And we need to be aware that this sense that it's something that's really bad is something that has been handed to us. Procrastination, in terms of what it actually is, it's very simply a sign of a disconnect between your conscious mind, what you consciously want to do, and your subconscious mind. So what your subconscious is ready or feels safe or willing to do. So that's the bit, you know, conscious, subconscious mind. Your conscious mind decides we're going to start going to the gym 3 days a week, okay? Your conscious mind makes the decision. Your subconscious mind, which is made up of your emotions, your beliefs, your values, your automatic responses, all of those experiences that have been kept and collected within you and that aren't within your active awareness. Like you're not thinking every single day about your route home from work. That's been stored in your subconscious, in your automatic place. All of that information that's been gathered by your system to help you just move through life, it may have some different opinions about that decision to go to the gym 3 days a week. So your subconscious might still hold the memory of those really horrible gym classes at school where the teacher yelled at you. And it's like, I don't want to put you through that. We're not going to the gym. Or your subconscious, your deeper awareness might be holding the knowledge that you're actually really tired. You're more tired than you're letting yourself be aware of. And it's like, we need to dial down. You know, you want to go to 3 HIIT classes a week. I'm not so sure about that. And your subconscious might also hold some of the really powerful parts of you that you're not as connected to. It might be the part that's like, actually, you've spent all day doing stuff for other people, going to work, doing stuff for your children, for your family. I don't know if I want you to spend more free time doing something that you say you should do. I want to go and drink wine on the sofa. Okay?
Yeah.
So the thing is, when our subconscious, when all of these deeper parts of us are not on board with the plan, they will often communicate that to us through the body. They will communicate it through sensation. They will communicate it through behavior. And the subconscious part of us is more powerful than the conscious part. I think the conscious part of us makes somewhere between 5 and 10% of our day-to-day decisions, whereas the subconscious makes 90 to 95% of our day-to-day decisions. So you can willpower your way through what your subconscious wants to do for like 1 or 2 days. You cannot do it over a long period of time. Yeah. So procrastination is, and this is the metaphor that I give everybody, procrastination is like the little light on your car dashboard that's letting you know that there's something going on in the rest of the vehicle. We're low on fuel. We need an oil change. There's something going on that needs your attention. And it's your
Right.
invitation to get into that deeper place and to discover what is it that needs some attention from me in order for these two parts of me to come into harmony. And so that is why procrastination is not, first of all, it's not a moral feeling whatsoever. It's simply an indication that there's some kind of like disconnect going on. But it's also a real helper and a guide, because if you have a goal that you want to go after, you need the information about what's going on within you that needs support to either get on board with the plan or to influence the plan in such a way that makes it right for you. And when you start to work with things and you know how to do that, when you're given the tools to do that, then you can actually work towards those goals in a way that feels a lot better to you. Because if you're not doing that, you're going to feel like you're at war with yourself, which is what procrastination often feels like.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. I've never heard it described that way, and I love it. I think that's so cool. I think that like this will resonate with a lot of people who haven't heard it in this way. So now that we've like gathered this information, what do we do with it now? Like how does this implement into people's lives, or like how when people are working with you, how does that kind of change? Is it just like sitting in that, like doing the embodiment work and then going and just like building new habits, or what else happens in that space?
It's really about building a relationship with your body, because your body is your subconscious mind. So your body is a physical expression of your subconscious mind. And that sounds like a really grand statement, but actually we know that intuitively. Like you go and see your friend and they tell you that they're fine, and they think that they're fine. I just watched the episode of Friends for the 100th time last night where Ross keeps saying he's fine. And like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. But everyone knows he's not fine, because you can see it in how they're behaving and how their body language is expressing it. Your body is an expression of your subconscious mind. So it's always communicating with you about what is really going on underneath the surface. And we live in a society that has taught us to not give very much regard to those experiences, and has taught us to try and control or manipulate that rather than work with it. So the first step is quite simply bringing the body into the conversation, starting to pay attention to your body. So this is where, if this feels really difficult or overwhelming to people, they might want to seek out support of like some embodiment support, or if they've got a lot of past trauma, they should go to a therapist who's got somatic training, because we can become very cut off from our body through life experiences. And depending on your past, it depends how much support you need. But at the most fundamental level, it is about learning to sense and sit and feel the physical sensations in your body without trying to change them or analyze them straight away. And that's the big one. So I remember when I went to that CBT therapist back in my early 20s, I was told, you don't feel your feelings, you think your feelings. And I was great. I was like, great. But that was where the conversation ended at that point. Yeah. It's like, okay, so I don't feel my feelings. Great. How do I do that? What embodiment taught me to do was how to feel my feelings. And it's actually incredibly simple. And the reason we don't get it is because we're complicating it through the mind. So it's about bringing let's continue this metaphor of this example of going to the gym. So you've decided, I'm going to go to the gym 3 days a week. And you notice that within a week, every part of you is trying to get out of that. You are putting it off. You're scrolling on your phone. You know that you're procrastinating. You know when you're procrastinating. So the first step to me would be, instead of trying to fix that right away, what plan do I need? What way do I need to force myself into that? The first thing to do is to check in of what is going on within me, and look at what's going on in your body, because when you look at what's going on in your body, that's going to tell the story of what's happening in your subconscious mind. So you might feel your body, and it may take a moment or two. Sometimes the surface level feelings that we have are not the only ones that are there. So you might need to spend a little bit longer and just go deeper. And if, let's say you check in with your body, you feel, okay, I wonder what's here. And you start to notice that whenever you think about going to the gym, you feel this like squirming in your stomach. You're like, ugh, that's really I just feel this like tension, this like yucky feeling in my stomach. And if you sit with that for longer, maybe you notice that that feels really similar to how you used to feel in your gym classes when you were a kid. Okay. So it gives you a memory of like, okay, so there's something here that's going on that's related to a previous experience. Now, this is the part that a lot of us have never been taught how to do. There's kind of two things that are going on here. One is cultivating the ability to simply feel that, first of all. So a lot of us, we feel that and we're like, I don't like that feeling. I'm going to run the other way. Okay.
Yep.
I'm not saying you have to spend all day in really horrible feelings, but when you don't have the ability to feel them at all, you lessen the information that you have about yourself, which is what interrupts self-trust. Because the most fundamental level of how we create trust with ourselves or with another person is by getting to know them. Yeah. We just get to know them. We just know them well. And so you're able to work with them because you know them. I know which of my friends are open to advice about certain topics and which friends you just need to leave because I just know them. So first of all, just spending time with the feeling, just getting curious about it. And the way we would work with it through feminine embodiment coaching is we would use the pillars of movement, breath, awareness, and sound, which I just describe as you're just getting to feel that you're just adding more texture to this sensation. So like if this feeling was to like move, how would it move? And that can give you a bit of information sometimes. Like, is it wanting me to scrunch up into a ball? Which tells you a little bit about going inwards. Is it wanting me to take really like short, sharp breaths? Which tells me a bit about panic. You know, so those kinds of things are just giving us more information about what's going on. The second thing then is about using this data, this information that we've collected, to educate us on what we may need right now. So that our sensations are always communicating our needs. It communicates with us when we're hungry, when we're tired, and it's the same with our emotional experiences. So that little squirming in your stomach that feels like, oh, I'm going to a gym class, this is horrible. It probably really needs an adult presence to let it know that no, you're not going to be shouted at today. It's okay. Right. We're not going into the gym class with that horrible PE teacher. I'm not going to criticize you. And by the way, a lot of us have picked up those voices from our past and done it to ourselves. I know I did for a long time. I would have criticized myself so much in the gym, just in the same way that I was by my PE teachers. So we might need to decide, okay, well, what does this little part of me need? It probably needs some comfort. It probably needs some reassurance. And maybe it needs me to scale back what I'm doing. So if my plan today was to go to that really hard gym class that I know probably is going to push me to a level that feels very similar to those classes at school, maybe it needs me to just dial things back today. Maybe we could just go and run on the treadmill for a little while. Maybe we'll not go straight into that class environment that feels intimidating. And what this does, and so this is why I think I sometimes say that like my approach to procrastination, if you're looking for a quick 5-minute fix that changes it today, don't take my method. But if you're looking for something that completely transforms it over the next couple of months, this is my approach, because this is about a compound effect. You kind of dial things back a little bit to understand what you need right now. And as you do that over and over again, it creates trust and cohesion. So this is all about bringing your conscious mind and your subconscious mind into harmony, on board with one another, informed by one another, which gives you more power and energy to do the things that you want to do, because your energy is now no longer in a tug of war with itself. It's just on the same plan. So as you do that over and over again, you will find that that part that felt like it had to jump in to save you from this horrible gym class that you were going to go to now realizes that that's not what we're going into. So it will start to diminish. And so this is this is the experience of using procrastination as a guide to teach you about your deeper needs so that you can do more of the stuff you actually want to do using the wisdom that it's provided you.
Yeah. Wow. That's great. I love that in so many ways. Okay. So tell me about how this works in like the cyclical nature of like the feminine.
Yeah. So I think that this cyclical working is really important here. And I think there's kind of like a broader point to it, which is that a big part of the reason that we feel so much guilt and shame around procrastination is because we live in a very linear capitalist society, which believes that we should be able to show up and operate the same way every day on command, usually to meeting somebody else's expectations. So it's not a surprise that a lot of the examples that I pull out are around school, and school really is kind of designed to, and I had really great experiences at school, but school is designed to teach us how to follow the requirements of an industrial society. That's what our current school system was built around. So it is an environment in which you are taught to meet the expectations of an employer as opposed to following your inner guidance and your inner wisdom.
Yeah.
For women or for people with a menstrual cycle, our experience of output and our experience of productivity is quite simply going to be different than the experience of somebody else. You know, my period is just due to start. So I am in a lower energy phase. My output is just not going to be as high as it is in the middle of the month when I am full of beans and I want to be out and talking to people. So where procrastination kind of comes into this is that a lot of time the women that I speak to, they believe that they're procrastinating, but actually their body is just slowing them down because they cannot deliver at the same level all the way through the month. And because we live in a culture that has given us no information about our cycles, has delivered so little education, and also has a very low regard for it. So even if you do have knowledge about this, it's not well respected or accepted.
For sure.
We go into the default mode of, well, how can I just get myself to do more? How can I just get myself to continue to deliver? And there's times where that's gonna be a requirement. There are times where, yes, okay, I've got a commitment, I want to fulfill it. What can I give myself to move through? But it doesn't even occur to us to use the flexibility that we do have in our lives to give ourselves an easier time at the times of the month when our energy is lower. So procrastination will show up as that. If we're thinking of it's the disconnect, your subconscious knows that you're menstruating or you're about to menstruate. It knows that you need extra rest. It's like, I don't care about what your boss says. I know that you need rest right now, and I'm going to demand that you have rest right now.
Right.
But our conscious mind, which has been, it may have absorbed, and yes, okay, this is a bit more, those cultural messaging will be in the subconscious as well. Right. So there's a whole load of like conflicting things happening, and that's what's creating this sort of tension that we're feeling. But we may be pushing ourselves to operate at a level that we're just not able to today. And so procrastination can become the body's strategy to slow you down, to go, okay, well, you're still going to do that thing, but I'm going to make sure that you do it as slowly as you possibly can. I did this about a week ago. I scrolled Facebook for 45 minutes to get a very particular picture that I was saying I needed. I knew I didn't need that picture. I did not need
Yeah.
that picture. But I just, and I did the work on myself actually after this. I was like, okay,
Yep.
what's going on? What is happening? And I went through the process and I found, okay, this is the pace and the way I need to move today. And it all started to come into harmony a bit more. But, procrastination will sometimes be the strategy the body uses to slow us down. So where cyclical
Yeah.
living comes into this is that your job is not to go, well, how can I thwart my cyclical nature and just make myself work at the same
Right.
pace all month round, which is what we've been taught we're supposed to do. It's
Right.
actually to honor that natural cycle. And I'm sure this is the work that you do, is helping people to actually honor that natural cycle and bring it into their lives. Because when you do that, you're not going to have that war of procrastination. But also, yes, there's going to be some days in the month where you have less of an output than others, but the compound effect over time will likely be much more significant than if you just continue to try and make yourself do it in a linear way, because you're conserving energy at the times that you need to, which is giving you more energy overall, and it's leading to a much more sustainable way of operating. And really, especially for like bigger goals and dreams that we have, we need to look at more at long-term sustainability as opposed to short-term bursts of fixes.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you do a lot of work on like political activism within this. I wonder, like, do you feel like there could be a shift in our lifetime of going, instead of this like very linear industrialized process to switching, and like women specifically, or people who are menstruating and living cyclically, like switching the main society to a more cyclical nature?
Yes, I do think so, but I think that we're part of it. So I think that there's pockets. I don't think it'll come through a political movement, basically. I think that from being in political movements, my strong feeling is that politics needs more embodiment, a lot more, including, and I include in that the campaign movements that I have been part of, and like the left-wing spaces that I have been part of. There needs to be an awful lot more knowledge of the nervous system and knowledge of the body and ways of working within those spaces. I could talk for 500 years about this,
sure.
like what I have seen, because I can see so many ways that there are things that people are like, well, why is nothing changing? And it's like, because all our nervous systems are playing out the same cycle over and over again, and we're part of the dynamic too. But I think the shift is slowly and gradually coming. Do you know what? It's actually interesting looking at this from the point of view of Ireland. So Ireland, when you look at the ancestral like culture of Ireland, so Ireland was actually, if you go prior to sort of Christian era, although for a long time the sort of pagan roots were very intermingled with Christianity. Ireland was a nation of goddesses. Now, they had gods and goddesses, but Ireland itself, the island of Ireland, was Eru. So Eru, the goddess Eru, was considered to be Ireland. So Ireland was viewed by, they're not quite indigenous people because there's already been like lots of movement, but like by ancient peoples, the island herself was considered to be a goddess. And the way that society operated was that the kings of the clans would marry the land. So there was a ceremony performed where the kings, the people, married the land, and the king was then held accountable for how the land was treated over his tenure as a king. And the people, it was essentially considered that if the land was not treated well, that the king could be overthrown because he's broken this covenant with the land. Now, if you look at like recent times, like go back 100 years, women have been all over the world, but women were severely repressed in Ireland. And even, in recent times, horrific oppression of women in Ireland. And what you can really see in activist spaces, and I've seen it particularly over the last 15 years, is that there is this massive uprising of
Yeah.
women in Ireland. Like, it is amazing to see it, and it has been amazing to, like, I've played a tiny role in it, but like, I've been
Yeah.
part of those movements. It's come through some of the abortion referendums. It's come through equal marriage referendums. There were also referendums around divorce. That's in the Republic of Ireland. I'm in Northern Ireland, but there's parallels here as well. But at the same time, there's been a huge revival of that ancient Irish culture, particularly around women. So for the first time a couple of years ago, St. Bridget's Day was made a national holiday. St. Patrick's Day has always been the national holiday of Ireland, but St. Bridget is an equally important. And St. Bridget, when you go back and look at her, she was a very feminist figure. Like, she's both a woman and a historical woman and a goddess. Yeah. But she was a real go-getter. Like, she did incredible things. She was a really powerful woman, and the naming of her as a national holiday has coincided with a lot of feminist movements and a real interest in connecting to the land through mythology. The point of all of this is that I can see it's almost like there is like a force moving through us. It feels like a force moving through the people, that there's this remembrance of the feminine. There's a remembrance of our connection to nature, the importance of art, the importance of culture. And it's very gradual, but it's like compounding in some way. So I do think that this is starting to move through the world in like pockets and in spaces. And I think it will start to influence our political spaces as well. So I think we are going to see a shift of it. But I think that in some ways we're going to have to be the messy middle. So we are going to have to be, we're not going to be the generation who gets to have just be born into this space where it's already honored. And we're going to have to be the uncomfortable, like, birthing process of this culture. But I think that, all of it, like conversations like this today, are part of it. And I don't think it's going to be I think if it was organized in some way, it would be less effective. I think people are very slowly waking up to this. And I think that the acceleration of technology is actually part of it. Like, the simultaneously more access to knowledge, but also the overwhelm and the kind of, and my own life that I've told you about, it was the point of complete overwhelm of, I actually just can't handle this anymore, that pushed me into my body. And I think so many of us with like global challenges, just the overwhelm of it, we will reach that little tipping point of, I can't handle it like this, which kind of forces you back into your body, which forces you back to the present moment and to connection with the land around us, which starts to shift everything, really.
Absolutely. That's amazing. Thanks so much for sharing all those details. That's great. All right. As we're like kind of rounding out our conversation, what do you feel like women really like need to understand, or just people who are living cyclically maybe need to understand about their body in general?
The main thing you need to understand about your body is that your body is so wise and so intelligent, and its one purpose is to keep you alive and well. Like, it's doing its job. And I say that as someone, and I know that can be so hard to accept in moments where it feels like it's not. Like, I have my little pacemaker here. He's called Percy. My heart needs a battery to function, know, and I've had, I have gone through periods, the year that I was experiencing panic attacks every day. I remember crawling down the pavement, phoning a friend to come and pick me up. I was so angry at my body at that time. I really hated my body. I thought that she was against me. But through this journey of connecting to my body, of really starting to sit with it and listen to it and understand what was going on, I can see that at every moment there was a deeper wisdom that was going on. Illness helped me to, I say that time of my heart condition, that taught me to love and care for myself in a way that I couldn't have, I wouldn't have learned it, I don't think, through any other way. The anxiety and the panic, helped me to find a level of safety in myself that was unreliant on anything outside of me. Like if somebody, my heart condition meant that I am at higher risk of sudden adult death syndrome than another average person.
Right.
And also at that point, before I got fitted with my pacemaker, they had told me, oh, you might start fainting. I was like, great, thank you.
Just casually.
Just pay attention if you start, if you start fainting regularly, we'll need to fit it sooner. It's like, okay. So
slightly concerning.
Yeah. But in order to function, you have to have a level of safety. So I had to find a safety that was deeper than being able to rely on the next moment or being able to rely on anything outside of me. And I wouldn't be starting a business right now without that. I wouldn't. There's lots of things I've done in my life since that I wouldn't have done without that level of safety. And I do think that for all the like difficulty that it feels like my body has put me through, I can see that there was a deeper intelligence happening there that was really supporting me. And so what I would just say is that the one thing to just really take in is that you don't have to like everything that your body is doing to be able to start to see the value of it and start to trust it. And that's all you really need to do, is to start paying attention. I had a client that I worked with who had a really big success story around procrastination. She went from being unable to sit down at her computer to finishing her PhD 2 days early and feeling amazing in the process and feeling like she had a deeper self-trust than ever. And she said to me that the thing that changed everything the most was just bringing the body into the conversation. Bringing the body into the conversation over and over and over again. Because what you pay attention to is what you deepen a relationship with. And so the main thing to take away from it is that there is a wisdom moving through your body. That doesn't mean you have to squash down the feelings of frustration or anger you have. That's part of it. Make friends with them too. But there is some deeper wisdom going on here.
It's amazing. I love that. All right. Well, when people, or if people are listening to this and like they're like, how can I work with Sarah, or how do I get connected into this space? Tell us about like how people can connect with you, or what things they can see from your work.
Yes. So you can follow me on Instagram, first of all. So I'm embodiment_with_Sarah. And I'm actually posting more on Instagram now. I hadn't for a long time, but I've been talking a lot about procrastination there, and I've started bringing some of my improv comedy skills in as well to make silly little skits about helping you understand your procrastination. So do check me out there. You will find there a link to my 5-minute free procrastination archetype quiz. So this is just designed to help you start to understand a little bit more about what might be driving your procrastination, especially if the idea of just sitting with your body feels overwhelming, because I would have had no idea how to do it before embodiment work either. So you can take the free quiz and you'll discover whether your embodiment or whether your procrastination is being driven by your inner protector, your inner winter, or your inner rebel. And you'll get a PDF giving you a bit of information around them and how to work with them, and a few practices that you can use to start working with it. And then if you want to go a step deeper, you can buy my procrastination first aid kit, which is your gentle nervous system friendly toolkit to help you get unstuck. And that's going to give you all of the tools, the practices, the nervous system education to help you to really start working with your procrastination rather than against it. They're the tools that I use myself. It's basically me taking the stuff that's helped me through the process of building a business and putting it into one place. And there is going to be one-on-one like coaching containers and different programs coming out in the new year as well. But I think that those are a really good place to get started.
Awesome. That's great. That sounds amazing. I'm excited. I'm going to take that quiz myself too, because I feel like that's just like such a cool thing. Great. Well, it's been such a joy talking with you and learning so much about this. Is there anything else you want to finish off saying? Anything else you want to share before we close out?
The only thing I want to share is that one of the main reasons that I want to do this is because I think that women in particular, following their weird, wacky, out there goals, particularly if they're things that don't immediately like benefit other people, if you just
Yeah.
feel like, you know what, I've always wanted to be a potter, or I really feel like doing this big long hike that's going to inconvenience my family. I
Yep.
feel like women doing that is part of this thing that we talked about, of the rising of the feminine. And actually
Yeah.
that the process of going after those things is the thing that's transforming and developing something within you that's important, even if it doesn't make sense right away. So the reason I want to work around procrastination is because procrastination is often the obstacle that stops us in our tracks straight away. It did it for me for a long, long
Yeah.
time. But when you start to realize that it's not stopping you, it's showing you where the obstacles are so that you can work with them and bring them into harmony, the sky is the limit. The sky is the limit.
Yeah.
So I want women to be doing more of the stuff they want to do in the world. And it starts by making friends with your procrastination.
I love that. That's amazing. Well, thanks so much for being here. And we'll make sure that all those things are in the show notes for people to reach out to you with.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning into the Cyclical Doula podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean so much if you shared it with a friend or posted it on Instagram and tagged me at Cyclical Doula. If you've got a question you'd love to hear answered on the show, head over to emma.com/podcast to submit it. And don't forget, leaving a quick review really helps this podcast reach more people. Plus, if you upload a screenshot of your review on my website, I'll send you a special surprise as a thank you. You'll find all the details in the show notes about this show today, and I really appreciate you being here and listening in. I'll see you next time.
Welcome to the space where cycles breathe, where the real raw life of a mama leads. From motherhood's highs to charting the low, your body's story is the star of the show. Matriarch hearts, cycles that speak, charting the truth in every peak. This is the cyclical doula sound, where body wisdom is always found. Matriarch hearts, cycles that speak, charting the truth in every peak. This is the cyclical doula sound, where body wisdom is always found.
Just a disclaimer and a reminder that any guests on the show are views of their own and not necessarily views of Emma LLC or Emma Goff herself. Thanks so much.